Hey folks, Marcel back again with the Pulse today, and I'm here with a 3-year update since taking NMN. It's a little bit over 3 years, but if you include a couple of pauses I took to sort of gauge how I was doing, which I'll talk about more in a moment, yes, it's been 3 full years taking NMN, and the results have been absolutely fantastic. I couldn't be happier, but I want to get into the details and some of the things that have happened along the way that have sort of shaped where I am right now. But I really want to give you a comprehensive update in how I'm doing right now and where I think things are going from here based on the last 3 years. First, I want to talk about, in decades, how active I was as a child from 10 to 20. Very active. Joined the Air Force. I was a basketball player. I was a track. I was a cross-country runner. I was active in other sports. I did play football. I played baseball. Just very active with a lot of sports, especially basketball. The things that went along with that, jumping rope, sprinting. When I got into my 20s, things began to be more interesting than sports, like going out and drinking, partying, going to discos, producing music, meeting people. That was more fun for me in my 20s, so I wasn't as serious about fitness in my 20s. Toward the end of my 20s, I had an incident where I was playing basketball one-on-one with a friend of mine. I hadn't been playing basketball, hadn't been doing any fitness at that point in time. And I landed flat-footed when I went up for a ball and felt a jolt go all the way up my back. I kept playing for a bit. The next morning, I couldn't get out of bed. I literally had to crawl to get to the restroom, and my roommate at the time, who was the guy I was scrimmaging against playing basketball, he had to bring me everything I needed for 3 days. I was laid up for 3 days. After that, I basically said no more. I can't do this to myself. I can't be a guy who was fit when they were younger, and now I'm overweight a bit, and I'm not fit at all. You kind of can ride that youth train for a while. You can stay in your 20s kind of youthful just based on the age thing, right? You don't have to really do as much to be quote unquote young. But in your 30s and 40s, you need to be doing something about it. And I would say now, even beyond those decades. So my 30s, I was pretty fit. I was active. I was running. I was playing basketball. I was playing basketball at the Y. I played basketball for a while for a military team as a civilian because I went back to Europe at that time and kept playing basketball. Worked at a gym for a while and just would work out every day. So I spent my 30s being very fit. By the end of my 30s, I began to have breathing issues. My allergies, my lifelong allergies turned into slowly breathing and asthma issues. So I spent a lot of my 40s getting worse. Basically, things got worse and worse. Looking for remedies, looking for medicines, trying different doctors, moved a couple times, trying to address this asthma stuff. By the time I got to 55, I was pretty much done. I was overweight. I was suffering. I had no answer for my asthma, my breathing issues, and I wasn't fit at all, and I began to have chronic pain issues. A lot of inflammation. You guys have seen the before pictures here before of my face, all puffy. Even when I wasn't that overweight, everything was puffy. I was uncomfortable. I was miserable. Around age 56, 55, I started taking resveratrol. Things got a little bit better. Started to clean up my act a little bit, started to play a little bit of tennis. At 56, that was 3 years ago, I started to take NMN. I have now, and I can say this is true since about May, I feel the way I did in my 30s. I feel the way I did with my active lifestyle. I'm active like I was. I'm exercising to some extent every single day. I'm moving around well. I'm now able to get back to the athletic self that I was back then. And it's just shocking to me. It's quite astounding. I wouldn't have expected it. But that's where I am, full cycle, over the last 40 years, 40, 50 years. Those are the ups and downs I've had. And to be back at it now at almost 60, feeling like I did when I was in my teens and in my 20s and active like I was in my 30s, feeling fantastic. Heck, the future just looks great for me. It looks really, really great for me. So if you look at my own story, and if you say, well, that's just anecdotal, that's just one person, well, then it doesn't really account for much. It's great for me. It's great for my family. It's great for my friends around me. But it doesn't really say a whole lot. And I get that. I know that some people push back on that. But when you look at the larger anecdotal story, where we have millions of people taking NMN and thousands of people have reported similar experiences to mine here, you have to take that seriously. You have to begin to listen. And that's really what this channel is about, reporting my results, giving you guys a forum to report your own results. And according to David Sinclair, NMN is now a $2.5 billion industry. Over the last 7 years, this has happened. So it's not marketing, right? Because you can't advertise it on television, make promises. You don't see NMN everywhere that you should see it because of the FDA's moves, which have failed, by the way. And I want to talk just briefly about that part of it in the last 3-year history. But it's quite spectacular to see it this big. Matter of fact, as far as the FDA goes, I believe they've stalled. Very much so, because a couple billion-dollar companies lined up early on with Team NMN. This sent a very clear financial and legal message to FDA that NMN was hands-off. NMN was going to trigger a battle, a huge battle, that they seem reluctant at the FDA and the Justice Department to pursue more heavily than just trying to send out a few letters and getting Amazon to take NMN down. I think that part of it, which I'm going to talk more about soon, is starting to crumble as well. We've seen signs at Google and YouTube that they're more open to sharing more freely and readily NMN information. So I think that ban is starting to fall apart, but we'll monitor that and talk more about that going forward. I think the citizen petition mattered a lot, but I think the biggest pushback were the industry leaders in the supplement industry saying no. One of them was selling NMN actively, one of them was not. But they both lined up on the same side to push back on the FDA, and that's when we saw things pause. Now, NMN isn't the only thing I've done. I've transformed my body through diet and exercise. Those were inspired by NMN. If I stop taking NMN, I begin to lose my energy. If I stop taking NMN and keep taking all the other supplements, which I've also tried recently, I still lose my energy. So it's not just the entire 16, 17 supplements that I'm taking on an ongoing basis. It's not just the diet and exercise. It's very much fueled by taking NMN daily. Another thing that I've noticed lately is I've mentioned I started taking NMN 3 times a day, so every 8 hours. Now, I know that it's been talked about often that you should take NMN in the morning on an empty stomach, but I was having some issues at night, which I talked about, when it was very hot, having a bit of breathing issues that were remedied by taking a dose of NMN just before bed. It didn't hurt my sleep. As a matter of fact, it's aided my sleep, and I've slept longer through the night than I did even before when I was only taking NMN once or twice per day. So now I take it 3 times per day, and that has also had a quite immediate impact. And I have no energy dips at all. Whereas before I might have had some brief energy dips or wanted a short nap, as opposed to the long naps I used to take. But even still, wanting a short nap now and then, I don't have to deal with that at all now. I have a steady energy feed all day long. So I'm very happy taking NMN 3 times a day. And that was just an accidental discovery that I came up with by just trying to take it 3 times a day. So it's very clear the correlation between feeling better, being more active when I take NMN and when I take NMN more often. As far as the future goes, I've changed, and I've constantly changed my outlook. I've talked about a lot of the things I want to do going forward. But one thing that has surprised me is that when my tennis season ended, I wanted to keep going. Whereas last year, I wanted a break. I wanted to give my shoulder a chance to recover. But I haven't had any recovery issues this year, and I played twice as many matches during the quote-unquote team season. So I'm already lining up more tournaments to play in and more competitions to be involved with, and even training for myself, not just for my sons, throughout the year, and even a camp here and there for myself, because I really have now an insatiable appetite to see how much more I can return to my youthful athletic self. I'm so intrigued by it and I'm enjoying it. It gives me a rush getting out there. I love the feeling of moving around better when I'm on the court. So I've changed as recently as the last couple months, my outlook on what I want to do and what I want to pursue with my life and with my time. I'm enjoying playing tennis. I'm enjoying being athletic. There's so much that goes along with that. It's the subject matter for other videos at other times. I know I've talked about tennis a lot, and some people kind of got a little tired of hearing about that, but it's what I use to gauge my reporting to you guys. It's how I measure my success. How fast am I moving? What's my stamina? What's my recovery like? This week, for example, my kids did have a tennis camp, which I also took part in for the most part. I did all the drills they did. I did all the sprints they did. I did all the jump rope that they did. And I did it every day and was able to hold up and still compete neck and neck with my 13-year-old son, who's quite good. So I'm walking the walk. I'm not just talking the talk as I do maybe a lot here. I'm out there walking the walk. So I appreciate you guys. Joining me for this update. That's where I'm at in a longer arc, in a shorter arc. I do wish I could go back 6 or 9 years. And I wish I could see where I'd be right now had I started NMN back then. So as a message to anyone who's contemplating NMN that's maybe only 45 or 50, I really wish I could go back to when I was 50 and start it then and see where I'd be now. But all I can do is build towards the future. I very much believe each year's going to get better. I don't know when that arc slows down, but I think I'm closer to the beginning than even the middle. So I think things are going to continue to improve based on how I feel now versus the first 3 years. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with you guys again soon.